Well, the winter is here. There's all the pools are being covered over. I don't see anyone outside running anymore. We're hunkering down for the final month of 2024. What better way is to have my man Dan come down, our staffing expert, to help us finish up 2024 and maybe give us a look into 2025. Dan, how's it going?
Man, Tony, it's good. It's good. I will say I migrated to South Florida years ago, so all of the pools being closed up talk and nobody running, that just doesn't resonate with me anymore. This is the time that people are out being active right now, so it's
It's
great.
so funny. It's so funny that you say that, because when we're in our full swing of exercising, we get a lot of triathletes
Yeah.
that'll come up here, and that's where a lot of them actually live, is in Florida. So they'll escape the crazy heat, and then they'll come up and kind of join us in Atlanta. They've got their tri bikes out.
Yeah.
They do a lot of road races with us, and it's kind of funny watching them, on their tri bike trying to keep up on the hills. There are no hills in Florida.
That's a true story. If they are trash heaps.
Exactly. It's a man-made hill. So do you get out and you get out and stretch the legs? What do you do to keep yourself healthy and fit?
Mountain biking. That's my deal.
We
like
just said there are no hills. What are you mountain biking in Florida?
You say that, but there is
You got the parks.
We do a lot of parks, great single track. I'm near Markham Park is close by, Amelia Earhart's close by, like Florida. I feel like the rest of the world doesn't really know this, but man, this is actually some world-class single track for mountain bikes. It's actually pretty amazing. So,
I did not know that, and I do have a mountain bike, and this might even give me more excuses to come down to your conference.
I'm telling you, there's a lot of great courses. I've actually not ridden. I should probably take my bike up to the Orlando area when we go to the summit to actually get out and see. I've not actually hitting trails up there, but it's amazing. Yeah, Florida's great for mountain biking. It really is.
Yeah, single track is definitely a lot of fun, and it's a big difference from road biking. I don't have to worry about hitting a tree and going over my, smashing my skull. I have to worry about cars coming up from behind me, but not.
Yeah, road biking is an extreme sport in South Florida because the driving is just. I would not do it. Like I'm a risk taker, but man, that's a risk. I'm like, man, riding a road bike out of South Florida, like that's
I know. It's kind of it's an ongoing topic with my buddies here in Atlanta. When we do ride, we've got these big groups. And what's nice is you go on a group ride, there could be 20, 30 guys, sometimes 40, 50 guys, and you'll split into different athletic groups, but you still end up with a good size number of guys in a group. And that gives you your safety when you're on the road. I mean, that's the theory. Now, I've moved up to Cartersville, so I'm a little further north, and it's absolutely beautiful up here, and I don't have that issue. So I can go bike riding, and I feel pretty safe. So
nice.
It's quite nice. So we were talking off air. You've got your sales conference coming up, right? It's in Orlando. It's in February.
That's right.
You guys have decided to focus on sales. Right. So that, to me, we're in an era or a period of time right now within staffing where sales has now become really the focal point for so many companies.
Yeah.
What kind of feedback have you been getting from some of your previous sessions, and why you decided to go solely with sales?
Yeah. So why we went solely with sales is because for the first time since coming out of the Great Recession, our industry actually ranked sales as a bigger challenge than recruiting, which the crazy thing about it is back then, recruiting became easier, but now recruiting didn't get any easier and sales became more of a challenge. So we recognized that going into this year that we really needed to hone the skills, because it had been a long time since people really practiced selling, and they lost some of the fundamentals, and they also didn't really keep up with the modern trends. So we put together an agenda to really serve the salespeople and the sales leaders of the industry, because let's be honest, this is where I'm at, and I love the associations and organizations out there. But when they put together a conference, Tony, if there is a sales topic, it's usually some breakout workshop in a small, cramped room down the hallway, and it's
Like
high
an
level stuff.
afterthought.
Yeah, and it's like, hey, like Rodney Dangerfield, like, can I get a little
Oh,
respect?
get no respect.
So I'm like, let's do something for the salespeople out there. So yeah, we put together the summit. First one was this past February, and it was way better received and better attended than I ever imagined. I didn't even know if we were going to do a second one, and the group was like, "This has been amazing." The main takeaways were they absolutely loved the energy and the content was actionable. They were like, "We can
Yeah.
take these techniques and apply it right away, and we want to come back next year." So that's why we're doing this again. And the early feedback is that our agenda and lineup for speakers is even bigger and more robust and impactful than what we did the first year. So I'm pretty excited about it, Tony. I really am.
Yeah, I saw that you've just kind of published your reveal on LinkedIn. So what I'll do is I'll make sure I kind of put a link to that in this so people can kind of see who it is.
Awesome.
So how much conference versus boondoggle is this? I mean, is this legit, right? Legit, we're going to come here and learn. We're not just off mountain biking and golfing, right? We're actually, because
Yeah.
that's what happens. You go to your boss and you say, hey, I want to go to this conference. And they're like, great, you want to go drink for 4 days.
Yeah. Well, do I say that doesn't happen? I don't know. But if you're a serious salesperson and you're like, you take this craft seriously,
Yeah,
I gotta believe you're gonna go plug in.
you
I
really
saw
need it.
people. All the sessions were fully attended, and I was actually shocked that there was not a lot of fall off. Usually on a 2-day conference, the afternoon of the second day gets a little bit light, but there was a lot of diehard people in the room, and they're amped to learn, and they're excited about it. And I think honestly, for me, I'm not an event planner by nature, but I've been to a lot of conferences, and there's a certain style that I prefer, and there's a style that I'm like, okay, right? But the style I prefer is workshop. Like, if I'm going to spend my time
Yeah,
and money to go to a place,
hands
I want to
on.
learn something. I want you to teach me something that is applicable, that I'm going to leave there understanding, I can apply it, and it's going to make me better and allow me to be more successful. So for me, that's the mandate for every speaker that we invite. Like, you have to teach something. This can't be hey, this is a theory, let me talk about a trend, this is something that you might see. No, this is what's going on. This is what we're seeing in the real world of how to be successful, or how to navigate this, or better manage this, how to do this better. And they're going to teach stuff, and people will learn with new skills, new strategies, new tactics that they can actually go implement and see positive results. And that's, honestly, I'm not an event planner, but like, that's the kind of conference that I want to go to. So that's what I
Hmm.
created.
You know, I think selling professional services is very difficult because there's so many different motives that you have to kind of deal with when you're dealing with a prospect. They're not always so forthcoming. And I think I've always felt like it's a little bit easier, if you're just trying to sell, you know, CPG, if you've got a phone or you're selling food or
Yeah.
beverage, I think it's a little easier. It's a little more straightforward in some ways. I think ramping up those skills that actually help you uncover
Yeah.
truly what the prospect's problems are. So let's talk a little bit about what you're seeing right now in the staffing industry. Kind of a state of the union. Where do we sit right now?
Yeah. It's actually a really curious time because we're coming through this long period. Obviously, we had like the recession due to the pandemic, and then there was this buildup, and people were unsure. And we've gone through this long period of uncertainty of like, are we going into a recession? Are we not? And it was a really wonky time where the signals were flashing multiple ways at the same time, and people were really uncertain. During this time, salespeople were over promising, and they were basically doing kind of, I don't want to pin it on salespeople, but there's a lot of bad salespeople that were over promising. Agencies were under delivering. Clients were sort of getting fed up, and they're like, we don't really believe that you're going to do what you say you're going to do. So we actually moved into what I call as a client trust recession. They don't really trust their agency to meet their needs. So they're very reluctant. But it's crazy because the demand for talent has not waned at all. Like, it is still really high, and we just created another 250,000 jobs, right? So the talent gap is still there. The demand for talent is still there, but sales cycles are actually getting longer. It's getting a little bit harder to recruit talent. And I've got a lot of theories. I don't know how far you want to go into it as
Well,
to
I mean,
why.
we can get kind of nerdy. I mean, okay, we'll break it down for a minute because when some people think of staffing, if you're not in the industry, you might just kind of blanket think all hiring. But really, when you talk about staffing to a staffing professional, you're talking about contingent workforce, which are people who are hourly, and then you've got salaried.
Yep.
And from the statistics that I see, that I read, it's probably 60-40, roughly.
Okay. Yeah.
I've varied. I mean, 60% is hourly, 40% salaried. There are various ways to look at this.
Yeah.
So when you're talking about the talent gap, where are you pointing? Which of these buckets?
So it's actually both, right? And because what happened during the pandemic and the great shift of remote work versus in office work, it created a lot of opportunities, and people realized that they could actually take advantage of this and they could actually stair step their income. They could basically say, hey, I'm going to go apply to these other jobs and get, a faster promotion and raise track or progression in their career just by bouncing around. And that left a lot of voids in the wake. And you're seeing this, obviously, you're also seeing minimum wages go up in different industries. And I know that, when you see a minimum wage in like the fast food industry go up, people are like, okay, well, yeah, we're just going to localize that to just fast food. But now you're actually competing with other industries, right? That might have a similar skill set worker or maybe 10-year experience type worker that might, that you have to pull from. So that creates a lot of these competitions. So even on the hourly side, we're seeing, still a lot of gap because people are moving around. They're chasing that next 25 cents, 50 cents, dollar, and they're getting it because the demand is so hard. So I'm seeing recruitment tough on both sides of the scale, Tony.
Yeah. Yeah, I think we can all agree that we've all seen the talent gap when it comes to trying to hire your full-time person because every company gets so niche in terms of what they're looking for, and they make it harder on themselves. They don't really train as much. They try to hire the expert in for whatever they want. It used to be, you could
Yeah.
bring in a general skill set and then kind of train them. Now they kind of want that exact. We were out last night grabbing some food, and this was our night not to cook. And so we went out, and we like this place, and we kind of get to know the folks in there, and they're like, we just can't get people to show up to work.
Yeah.
And that's to your point. So if a local place like that has to raise their hourly rate, and now you're competing with the small manufacturer down the street,
Yeah.
this is like they're now in direct competition with a business that you never thought you would be. And that's what's happening. You said earlier that one of the trends you're seeing is that people have fallen away from the fundamentals.
Yeah.
What are some of the fundamentals that you have seen that have worked? Because you're also a consultant, so you obviously, you help build these metrics and fundamentals in. What are the general fundamentals that a staffing company should be relying on month over month to attract, clients and do a better job of attracting candidates?
So this is interesting because it's actually not one of the fundamentals that they should be relying on right now going forward if we're actually looking forward. Um, but I will come back to answer your question, but really to answer the core of it, like what should they be relying on? We we've done a lot of research leading up to the sales summit to build the agenda to make sure we're hitting these right points. And one of the main themes that we recognized is that now more than ever, and this is not earth-shattering news, but now more than ever, buyers in B2B, even in the C-suite, it's north of 75%, 85% of them are using social media, digital media to influence their buying decisions, right? And it's no surprise because that's as consumers, as individuals, we've been conditioned with the Amazon effect, the social media effect. Like, that's how we've been conditioned, and we carry that sort of thinking into our day jobs. So agencies really need to be approaching their marketing much differently, and they need to do more of it. They need to get very clear on their core messaging that highlights their core values and what they can actually deliver on to differentiate themselves. So that's a really big one that I'm seeing is we need to do better job marketing. And it actually has to fall in two ways. There has to be this umbrella brand marketing that the agency covers. And then your producers, your people that are actually face to face with your candidates, face to face with your clients, they also need to be operating underneath that brand umbrella, almost influencer marketing style. And they need to be putting themselves out there, creating content, getting on podcasts. And it sounds crazy because people are like, why would that work? But that's what we see in every other area of our life, right? So that's a fundamental that's actually being built that we haven't really adopted, but that's going to warm the market up for the salespeople a whole lot more. So that's one thing. I'll shut up before I actually circle back to one of the fundamentals that we just need to get better at. That's always there.
Yeah, and you can touch on that, I guess, as we go. I think I'm not sure who I was talking to, and they said that it's not common to see marketing professionals inside of staffing companies. That it hasn't been. It's only been recently that you're starting to see that. I'm an example of that.
Yeah.
I'm in a mid-sized staffing company, and I have a marketing team. But I don't think that's. Yeah, exactly. You say,
That's not
"Wow."
normal.
See,
That's not.
exactly. It's not normal. My CEO is very forward thinking.
Yeah.
I think a lot of people have said this: if you're not growing, you're dying.
That's true.
And he really believes that. And, he travels quite a bit all over the world, always looking for new opportunities to grow and add new kind of facets into our business. And he thinks of marketing as like the Air Force. You're traveling much faster, you're looking much further ahead. The challenge that I find, Dan, is that people in staffing are so focused on today
Yeah.
that it's difficult for them to step back and say, "All right, you're right. I need to make time to make a Facebook post. I need to film some kind of genuine, interaction with our staff and with our clients." That's like it's like they probably know they should do it, but they don't have time. They don't work it in.
I get that, man, but I'm going to push back on that. The old adage is it's not that you don't have time, you just don't prioritize it. If you really believed that marketing was the answer, you would prioritize it. It's as simple as that. If I believed that going to the gym was a higher priority, I would be in the gym all the time, And so that's just the nature of it, Tony. And I think one of the challenges is people, they overthink it. They think that you have to do more. But I will tell you what's amazing. And I'm not trying to knock, the likes of you because your CEO is forward thinking, but when it comes to most staffing agencies, and there's 25,000 of us in North America, right? When it comes to most of us, the bar is set really low when it comes to marketing, right? So you don't have to do that much. You don't have to be Hollywood, cinematic, high published, or high polished, like. And then I'm going to give two pieces of advice. One, don't think about creating content, right? Because that's going to be overthinking it. That creates more work. We don't need one more thing to do. Use the Gary Vee approach. Just document, right? Just at the top of the show, like before we went live, I saw you were documenting, you were taking a video, you were talking through, kind of showing the behind the scenes stuff. Like you would have been walking through doing that setup and those checks regardless. That's something you would have been doing, but this time you just had a phone in your hand, right? If you were a
Exactly.
recruiter and you're just documenting what you do, people find that interesting. If you're a salesperson, you're like, oh, I just went on the sales call. I got to help this client out. This is the challenge they were facing. And you just document your debriefs. You're not adding anything to it, And today, honestly, mobile phones, they have great camera capabilities. So first piece, document. Don't try to overthink creating. And if it really does come down to a time piece, I will tell you there are resources out there. Aura Marketing is one that I'm familiar with, but there's others where literally you just book time with them, and it's outsourced. You pay them to do this, but you book
Yeah.
an hour session with them once a month, and you record everything. And then their team edits it. They create all the content around it, graphs, posts. They create a whole bunch of stuff, and they give it to you with a playbook of exactly what to post, when, and where. So depending on which way you want to go, you can DIY it the Gary Vee style and just document as you go, or you can actually pay somebody to help you out with it. But it's still not much of a time commitment. But those are excuses that have to go to the wayside if companies really want to start excelling, because marketing has taken hold and it will drive the sales process going forward.
I am so glad you said that. I swear we did not have that conversation in advance. I mean, that is
We did not.
literally what I have been preaching, is that you have to prioritize this. Like, it is so important that every person that walks through your branch door, they must follow you on Facebook.
Yeah. Yeah.
Every person that you give a job to, they need to give you a Google review. It's just like it's non-negotiable.
And some of the things that people don't connect it, and this is one of the things marketers are kind of like IT people. No one really knows what wizardry or magic you really do, right?
Shh,
Like,
don't
oh,
tell
it
anybody. We're
looks
behind the
cool.
curtain.
Yeah, right. But the reality is like, why do we want Facebook reviews and Google reviews and all of those reviews? Like, why do we want that? Recruiters like, that doesn't matter to me. Like, I'm just trying to place jobs. Well, you know what? The more reviews you have, the better you rank and the more likely you come up in search results. And then even better, the more likely you come up in search results, the more people are going to see you. And the more people that see that you have a lot of ratings and reviews, you create that social proof that says, hey, this is a company that I want to work with. And if we're on the sales side and you're like, you walk into a client and you get that one question that most salespeople have a really hard time, answering is, why should I choose you? Why are you different? You can be, you know what? Don't take my word for it. Look at all of these reviews. Look at the fact that we've got thousands of reviews and we're 4.6 star rated. And look what people say about us. Do you think we would have a better chance of finding you the talent you need versus the other agency down the road that has 3 reviews, right? Like,
Oh, you just nailed it.
so
I mean, that is,
we did not script this. This is all
I
organic.
mean, you did, bam. And that is exactly it. It's the social selling. It's the, it's the current way that we go out and vet. It's just how you do it.
Yeah.
You might go to a friend, you might ask somebody who have they used, but aside from getting a quick referral, that's the next thing. That's the next thing. You go online and check the reviews. Now, I will say not all reviews are equal. I know companies out there, they definitely try to scam their reviews. And I think it's very important, if you're listening to this right now, do not shortcut that system.
Don't do it.
It's not worth it. Don't pay people. Don't offer little incentives. I know everyone wants to do that. Make sure they're totally authentic. Don't listen. Eventually, it's going to get around to Google, and they can shut your whole account down. Don't do it.
I'm with you. Like, just do the thing. Like, be referable. Like, actually treat people like human beings. Provide a good experience. Care about people. Care about your clients. Like, I have this conversation with my friend David Fowle all the time because I believe referrals are just an untapped gold mine that people don't really take advantage of. But it's like number one step to having a great referral program and literally have your agency flooded with passive talent. Be referable. Be the agency that people just want to organically tell other people about and not be incentivized by $50 or $200 if they work 40 hours or whatever it is. Like, just be referable, and it will. And we all have those brands. Tony, what is something you just mentioned? There's a restaurant that you wanted to go to. You went out. It was last night. Was not the cooking night. What's the restaurant that you went to that you like?
It's called Sucheros.
Sucheros. Have you ever recommended that restaurant to anybody?
I have actually.
Did Sucheros ever give you any sort of bonus, a kickback, a free
They
app?
didn't even know I did it.
Didn't know you did it. It's because they're referable, and that's why you like it. You have a good experience there. What you set out to get there, they deliver on that promise to you, and you refer them. And you probably have 6 other examples, as do I, as most people have a place that they're like, yeah, I would refer this to somebody without even getting a bonus or referral credit or whatever because they're referable. So that's the step one. Like, just be referable, and you will get flooded with passive talent that feel like they're emotionally invested in you. So that be referable.
That's it. You see, there's something there. What you're just saying, you become emotionally invested. There is something in the human condition when you are in an experience, you are enjoying it, and you see the other people who are providing that service and they're doing a good job. You feel connected to them. They feel connected to you, and you want to share it. It just,
Buddy, I'm like that with Toyota. This is like a geeky story right here, but I'm hoping that I'm not alone. I'm hoping that you've got one of these or maybe more, or your listeners here have more than this. But so way back in the day, long time ago in a prior life, I used to sell Toyotas, right? Car salesman, butt of every joke, but sold Toyotas. And two things really endeared me to this company. Actually, three things, and I'll tell this really quickly. So they've got this book called the Toyota Production Management System, which I love process. I love efficiency. I like this. So I read the book. I'm like, wow, this is really smart. I like this. So I liked the company. Then they did these two things. And again, I know they've fallen on some hard things, but I'm sticking with them. I'm kind of ride or die with Toyota because of what I learned years ago. So when we went through the Great Recession and the auto industry was getting absolutely crushed, and the main American automakers were taking a bailout from the government to help keep them alive, right? And that obviously worked out well, not losing those industries. But Toyota, they just made a massive investment in their Toyota Tundra plant in Texas. And then the whole thing was shutting down. They had to lay all these people off. But instead of laying them off or furloughing them or sending them home without pay, like some of the auto industry did, they actually said, we're going to keep paying you. All we want you to do is go out in the community and do community beautification projects. We want to help you clean up graffiti. We want to help you just do things to beautify the local community. And Toyota paid for it because they're like, we don't want you to not have meaningful work because of something outside of your control. And we want to do something that's going to give back to the community. I was like, wow, that's pretty incredible. And around the same time, an amazing story, and I love this concept. Toyota has this policy where the highest paid person, which is usually president CEO, cannot get paid a certain multiple more than the lowest paid person in the company, right? And one year they had a banner year. I think this is 08, 09, somewhere in there. A banner year, and the president or CEO made $800,000 above and beyond that threshold, right? 800,000, and he gave it back and issued a public apology, and he gave it back to the company and was like, hey, no, I don't need to make that much. He returned that bonus. And I'm like, that's pretty amazing to be in that senior leadership position, especially where his peers are making 3, 4, 5 times what he's making. And he recognized like, no, this is not fair. It's not right. And he gave that money back. And I'm like, this is a good company. They do these things like this. And it's like that, like I'm emotionally invested. Neither one of those things directly impacted me. Right. I'm like, I'm emotionally invested. I recommend Toyotas to people, like if I'm in South Florida, crazy traffic, and there's a Toyota driver trying to get him, like, go ahead, you drive a Toyota, come on.
Ford,
You know?
back.
So it's crazy how we do these things, right? But like, yeah, you get emotionally invested if you do things that are exceptional and it becomes referable. So that's my stance.
And I think you're right. I bet people are, just kind of going through their heads right now of all those little times of this great little experience that they had. I don't remember the name of the book. I'll try to find it. But it was, I think he's in Atlanta. Jeffrey Gitomer. Does that name sound familiar?
Is it Gitomer or Jitomer? I think I know the book. What's the name of the book? I think
that's what I was saying. I don't remember the name of the book, but he, I've heard it as Jeffrey. I think it's Gitomer.
It might be Gitomer. But I had a professor in college that was Jitomer. It's spelled the same way. But
yeah, I think it was Gitomer. But that's at least how we Southerners, we slur it out. And the whole book was basically all about how do you become referable. I mean, essentially, it's the topic of that. And he went on these fantastic stories of like he traveled, and he would, he'd have to give speeches, and he went to one little town. They knew he was coming, and they called to check in just with him before he arrived, and they said, Jeffrey, we know you're going to be staying with us on such and such date. Is there anything that you would like for us to have for you? And he was like totally blown away. Like, here's a little hotel calling me to see if and he, you know what? He went so far as to say, you know what? Because he's in sales and he talks about this kind of stuff. He gave them a to-do list. He literally said, I like books about, and he mentions a topic. That's all he said. When he showed up, they had found 7 books from a local little used bookshop.
Wow.
They weren't much. They bought them and they had them in his room.
And that's
look, and I'm telling this story from a story that he told from a seminar I went to with him 10 years ago, whenever it was. So the takeaway here is be authentic, but you have to stand out. This truly is the secret sauce.
Yeah, absolutely. It's like the Ritz-Carlton story. When you were telling me that, made me think of Ritz-Carlton. I don't know if you've heard this, but what they used to do when people were pulling up to the property, the bellhop or whoever was greeting them, valet or whoever, would get their name, and then they would literally speak it into the front desk and be like, hey, you know what, Tony's here. And then you'd be walking up to the front desk and they'd say, hey, Tony, welcome, let me get you checked in. And you'd be like, and it's like you felt comfortable, you felt like you were familiar, and it was a special treatment that no other hotel was doing. But it was like that secret sauce of the Ritz-Carlton, and they've got one of the iconic premier brands. So yeah, those little nuanced things that we can do that help make the experience memorable, and
Yeah.
it's what makes you referable.
Yeah, I mean, I would really encourage every staffing company, have this meeting, have your branches, your branch managers, everyone get together and think about what one thing could they do differently in the candidate experience, in the client experience, and it will help you stand out. Because you're involved with so many different staffing companies, you really, you're smiling. God bless you. You work in this is a very tough industry that you're supporting, and you do a good job supporting us. Are there some industries that you're really excited about, that you see signs of growth?
So I actually expect the entire industry to get an uplift. I've been saying this for a few months, even prior to the election, and I feel like we're in this kind of pent up period of like we're not really sure what to do. So I think we're past that. There's going to be some road bumps. There's going to be some turbulence and some friction over the next few months. That's for certain in our economy, because we're still trying to grappling with policy changes and transitions and all that kind of stuff. And I get that. But at some point, something is going to give, and we're going to be like, hey, we just want to get back to normal and growing, kind of the American way. And I expect that lift to kind of trickle down into the staffing industry for us to have a really good second half of the year. I don't know if there's one industry that's going to experience it significantly more than any other. I do know that there is disruption, in the contact center space, and even in the light industrial space. Automation is taking hold. So long term, I've got some concerns in those areas. I think
I
healthcare.
do too.
Yeah. So it sounds like that's on your mind. So what do you got?
Well, look, I think regardless of what you want to think about Elon Musk as a person, the companies and the innovation that he's pushing, it's transformative. And I just saw some more videos that came out of Optimus. If you don't know what Optimus is,
It's crazy.
you need to start follow. Actually, Optimus, funny. Optimus has his or her own Twitter page.
So I'm not a Twitter guy, but it doesn't shock me.
That's right. You're not a Twitter guy. That's one thing I would do to you, Dan, is I would force you into that news cycle. But in all seriousness, so Optimus is the robot that Elon has been developing. And they just posted another video of Optimus walking down a very steep incline, and it lost its balance, and it slipped, and its leg came out from under it, and it used the very same maneuvers that you would use, and it caught itself. And everyone was just like, that was the most human, the most lifelike reaction. And so here we are, light industrial.
Yeah.
And I've been asking Grok. Grok is the AI assistant that's associated with Twitter X. If you have a premium account, you get Grok for free. I think Grok is going to eventually be free for everybody, if it's not already, to kind of compete with ChatGPT.
Yeah.
And it's projecting that maybe in 15, 20 years, that Optimus will be at a point where it could probably potentially replace light industrial. And that's kind of scary. I mean, 20 years is you're going to blink your eyes and it's here.
Yeah. I feel like at the advancement rate of technology, you're going to start to see it adopt even in a shorter period than that. Not this year, not within the next 3 to 5, but maybe on that 5 to 10, you're going to start seeing it. And there's a lot of upside, and Optimus is one. There's actually 50 companies out there, at least 50 companies that are developing humanoid robots that are specifically designed to do light industrial manufacturing labor, right? And it's needed. And every staffing company is going to say, no, we don't want that. But like, unfortunately, our clients are the ones that are driving it, because there's just not enough people, and they're not getting the people they need from us. And that's not a knock on us, right? but it's just the nature of things. And our clients will drive that adoption just like they did with a lot of other automations and robots and things like that. And the most startling fact, and again, I know it's way too early to really know this, but the fact that they're even projecting this, they anticipate that the return on a humanoid robot in a labor position is about 36 weeks. Think about
Wow.
that.
Okay, so you make the initial investment, and just 75% of the way into the year, it's now you're break even.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
that's incredible because when you think about it, it's the energy costs and it's the maintenance.
Yeah.
So all that's tied into it. You know what I find kind of interesting, Dan, is I've seen the exoskeletons. I think that is a nice hybrid,
Yeah.
where they wear the power assist, helps their back, helps them lift. I thought that was kind of an interesting play. I didn't realize that there was 50, roughly
Yeah.
50.
It's crazy. Yeah. I've been studying this pretty closely. It's fascinating to me. I've always been interested in that sort of technology development, but it's going eventually, again, mid to long term, it's going to have a major impact on the staffing industry because the appeal of having a humanoid robot, as long as their output can be at or better than the human counterpart, it's going to be appealing, and you're going to have these people working right alongside. Now, to offer a sort of a silver lining on the other side of things, you have to think about this. Right now, the work environment that we have out there, the warehouses, the distribution centers, the manufacturing facilities, whatever they are, they're built for humans to do the work in there. And a lot of these humanoids, they're built in the image of a human, but they're not all exactly to scale, right? So there is going to have to be retooling, outfitting, and actually
That's a good point.
rebuilding these facilities, and that's going to increase the cost, and that might actually delay the adoption, of this for even longer. So I do. There's other hurdles that the industry is going to have to face in order to really adopt a humanoid robot to take place of a light industrial worker. But the risk is real, in my opinion.
I mean, we are truly living in the future
Yeah,
right now.
it's an exciting
I
time.
mean, it is an exciting time. And he was saying that when they can get them up to scale, he's talking about Optimus, he thinks they can go for around $20,000 each. So, I mean, could you imagine having an Optimus in your house? I
Oh
know
yeah.
I
I
could,
mean, honestly, if I could put a deposit down right now, I'm in.
I
Yeah,
mean, honestly, I'm there. I mean, because they could, I mean, seriously, clean the house, cook, do the lawn, anything you can think of, eventually they're going to be able to do.
yeah. And for literally the price, I don't even think you can buy a Toyota Corolla new for $20,000. So
Isn't that
yeah,
that's incredible? I mean, he really is like for the betterment of mankind, kind of approach. Listen, I know we obviously could talk for quite a long time because we're both in the industry and you're very knowledgeable. I have had a lot of tech companies on,
yeah.
and I don't want you to play favorites. You don't have to drop names per se. You can drop names if you want, but I'm just more curious. Is there technology that you're really excited about for the staffing industry that you would hope maybe that it becomes more widely adopted?
Um, yeah, I do.
Is that a
I'll name.
big is that a big topic
I
or
mean, it is. There's a lot. I'm going to mention this one. I don't know how well known they are, but I really believe in the product and what they're delivering, and they're one of the few that I've seen that are actually tackling it. It's a company called Glide Talent, Rod Smith and Shane Gray. They're, seasoned veterans in the industry. They've actually built ATSs and sold them. And so they're really well adept with the industry. But what Glide is it's purely top of funnel talent management, right? So if you're a recruiting agency, and you're putting all of your jobs out there on Indeed or of any of your other job boards, right? And you are managing this, a lot of times you're going to get hundreds of thousands of impressions. You might get tens of thousands of applies. And if you're trying to be lean in this industry and you're trying to, have healthy profits, you can't overstaff with people to actually filter through all of those, right? Especially a lot of them on these job boards, they're the most active of job seekers. That's why attrition is so high, and that's why we really need to get better at passive talent management. But that's the next technology piece, maybe. But with that, Glide, I actually was talking to an owner of a really large staffing agency, hundreds of millions of dollars, a privately owned agency that implemented it. I was doing a kind of a research story for Staffing Monthly, and he mentioned he's like it's already paid for itself because it responds to all of the applications. Every single application gets a response, and it's very much a human-like interaction, whether it be text message, chatbot, email, whatever it is. But it gets an interaction with somebody, and it's actually smart enough to read the resume that the person submitted, compare it against the job that they applied to, and ask them some very basic questions about it. So do again, not going to replace the quality screening of a recruiter, right? That's not what it's for. It's to kind of like to your point, the exoskeleton. It's to help do more of the lifting. But if you can think about all of those candidates getting in touch, you're improving the customer experience for those candidates, right? That's really paramount. Whereas for agencies, if you don't get to a candidate right now, they're going to tell 10 of their friends that they applied with you and they never heard back, right? So it solves that sort of problem. But there was I guess a solution that I hadn't even thought about. And this owner of this company was like, our recruiters were spending so much time chasing applicants. Like we would be calling and emailing and text messaging and chatting applicants that would never respond. Like they would apply to the job, but like we were chasing them down and it was so hard. They were wasting their time with that. And they used Glide to actually filter that out. So they're basically teeing up candidates that meet the very basic screening criteria, but are actually active. They're actually going to respond. They're going to engage with the recruiter. So now the recruiters are not wasting their time trying to chase candidates down. And I thought that was an interesting use case there. So that's one from a top of funnel management that can help improve candidate experience, but also save recruiters time. Um, I also I'm a big believer of what Aviante is doing. I believe in the vision of platform staffing. I really think that they took a bit of a bold move, kind of moving away from the traditional ATS tech stack framework that most of the industry is looking at. And they said, hey, we want to create this end-to-end model. And they're pushing boundaries, by bringing in a VMS to be a part of it. And they're really connecting clients directly into the ATS, if you will, of the agency, which is kind of scary, but like that's the platform. If you want to create a marketplace where you're the shopkeeper and you have vendors and you have customers and you're all sort of working together, just like Amazon did, but we have clients and we've got candidates and we're bringing them together. If you create that end-to-end connectivity and you put it in one kind of hopefully seamless transaction, they're building towards that. That's the vision. I really believe in that type of platform model. I think platform staffing is really the wave of the future for our industry, and it's going to be less wonky than the traditional tech stack model that has permeated for years.
I'll have to check out Aviante. That obviously is a upgrade. We used Aviante years ago. I mean, we switched off them. We're with Bullhorn.
Yeah.
And if you're talking about a combination of ATS and VMS and some kind of a shared database, yeah, that is a little scary because, your database is kind of your property, yeah.
So it's
And so
I don't want to overstate it, Tony. It's not like a shared database. It's really
okay.
about integrated workflows. So if you think about, and again, I've had a chance to talk to Jason and Rob from Simple VMS and see this and see how it works. But it's basically there's a veil and the QC lies with the recruiting agency, but your clients have on-demand access if they want to post a job, and that job will go right directly into Aviante. It will create the initial screening flows and those automations, again allowing the candidates to be interacted with through some automation, shortlisted so the recruiters can do their QC vetting before they get submitted over. So the client doesn't have direct access to the candidates. They're still the gatekeeper of the recruiting agency.
I see.
But there's a lot of self-service functionality, but it's directly integrated. So you don't have to worry about having third-party integrations or scripts, or custom software or anything like that created to connect your VMS to the database. And if you're a mid-sized staffing agency and you actually work with a lot of light industrial and you work in that space, which is kind of their sweet spot, now you can actually bring that solution to the client. So it's another business service that creates more of a sticky, integrated relationship with your client, which clients, they're getting more sophisticated. They want better tools. So that's something that I see is an interesting approach. And then obviously on the client side or the candidate side, they bought working, which was the gold standard for mobile apps. So they're building out a pretty amazing platform. Still on their roadmap. They've got stuff they've got to obviously get to and accomplish, but that's the vision. I align with that particular vision as far as technology goes.
Oh, that's great. Yeah, that's good. Something for us to look forward to and find out how can we integrate it into our business. And like you say, just get more sticky. And if a sticky experience means more referrals.
Yeah, that's
You
exactly
see how I
right.
tied it all back in?
That's it. That's it. Referrals are it, man. I'm telling you what. I cannot leave this show without saying that if you're struggling with attrition in this industry and you were like, man, it's hard to scale, it's hard to keep talent, yet you keep pulling from job boards. And again, I'm not saying they're not an important part of the recruiting framework. We need job boards, but we're missing a huge part. When we become over reliant, they're the most active candidates in the world. They're actively looking
Exactly.
for jobs. And just because you place them in a role doesn't mean their resume goes away. They've probably already applied to 50 other jobs. So you're competing with agencies and other private employers after you place them. It's no wonder they're getting a call and they're going to dip and ghost and go to that next opportunity. So we have to do a better job of being referable, having great referral programs, having strong databases where we're engaging with our audience and we're creating active communities of passive talent that know us and like us and want to go to work for us and represent our brand. So that's a shift that we really need to get behind. Otherwise, we're just going to keep burning bridges with our clients and letting them down.
Yeah. And when you do that, you open the door for that other agency to come in that maybe has done it better than you.
Yeah.
And you get relegated and you're out the door and you wonder why your headcount numbers are down.
That's right.
Dan, as always, great talking to you. What are the dates again for Orlando?
Yeah, Staffing Sales Summit is February 26th through the 28th, 2025. Going to be at Margaritaville in Orlando. It is an amazing venue. The vibe is right. The agenda is great. Go check it out. We'd love to have you. Seating is going to be capped. We're intentionally keeping this event at 100 or under. So if you want tickets, go get them. It will sell out this year.
Awesome. Awesome. Well, hopefully we'll see you in Orlando.
Awesome. Thanks, Tony. Appreciate you, man.
Stick around, okay?